My first guest on this series today is Neeraja Ganesh, a person who inspired me heavily. And the minute I thought about doing this series, she was the first name that came into my mind. And I'm so happy today to kind of launch the first episode of the series with Neeraja.
Thank you so much, Madhvi. My pleasure to be on this. And the topic is something that I love to talk about. So yeah, anytime I would be there as a guest.
Absolutely, I have seen some of your networking talks have been such a super hit. So yeah, I'm really looking forward for this. All right, Neeraja. So I probably want to kind of time travel a little bit. You've been in the corporate world for such a long time. So when did you actually started to feel the need for networking? Was it in the early days of your career, or was there a specific event that triggered? So just walk us through a little bit about your journey, and were you somebody who were like a natural person inclined towards networking? So just talk us through that.
Yeah. So I always, talk about the year 2016 being the transformational year, and I will talk what I did before that. So I had gone to this conference. It was a conference for women on a career break. Why did I go to such a conference? Because I would never do it before that. We are so busy, caught up in our own lives, right? As we're growing in our careers, is when our families are also growing. So, and in Bangalore, if you are living in Alsur and if you have your office in Whitefield or Alandur, I think the rest of your life also goes on the roads. So you really don't want to do anything beyond this on a Saturday and Sunday. But Capgemini, I was working in Capgemini, and they had asked me to put out a recommendation to hire women on a career break. And I had done some research around it and realized that there are portals that are exclusively for women on career break. And I was signed up on one such portal because I was doing the research. And they invited me to a conference on a Saturday. I have no reason why. I don't know why I went. I still ask myself because I was not on the break. I was not considering taking a break. People at home said, why do you want to spend a whole Saturday somewhere else? But I still went. And that was, I think the transformational moment. One, for me to understand the need to help women on a career break. Because I had not taken a break and I kind of heard stories from them. But what happened more importantly was, it was a full day conference, the regular panel discussions and keynotes and all of that. But the speakers came from a very different industry, domain, expertise. For me, till then, whichever conference I had attended was always banking and technology because that is what I had worked on. And suddenly, when I started hearing these speakers, I realized that I lived in a cocoon. And a small thing also that they said was an aha moment for me. Like, for example, there was one person who said, the women on the break, that there are plenty of opportunities out there. What happens to us is if we have been, for example, in IT, which is what I did all my life, then we want to look at the next opportunity again in IT. And for these women on a break, whatever they had done before the break is what they only wanted to look at when they wanted to restart. And he made the statement, don't look at it like that. You look at what your core competencies are. What strengths do you bring to the table? And trying to match that to every possible role in any industry, not necessarily what you've done in the past. And you will suddenly find that, the number of opportunities that you can apply to are more. And the success rate is hence going to be higher for you to get into a job. I had never thought of it like that. And I realized that you really need people from diverse backgrounds to talk to listen to. And what I did was I came back to the conference and I decided I'm going to do something with my LinkedIn. So till then, I had created my account in LinkedIn in 2016. While I started my career in 1992, I don't know when LinkedIn started, but I didn't even have an account on LinkedIn. I created one just then. And I used to have only people with whom I had worked as my connects on LinkedIn. Even if there was somebody else who would send a request, I would say no to them. And I didn't go looking for others. But after I came back from that conference, I said I will follow all these speakers on LinkedIn. I was too scared to connect. I said I will follow them. And suddenly from the next day, my LinkedIn feed became so interesting because these are different people. They go to different, organizations. They work at different organizations. They read different kinds of things and they post different things, and your perspective changes. So I think that was my trigger to get started with building a diverse network. The second thing that I always say is networking is not about getting something from somebody. Networking is about what value you provide to somebody. which is something that I have always done through my life, because that's the kind of a person I have been, whether it's school or college, at work. So I have gone outside of my own team and helped out a lot of people. So I believe I have networked well within organizations. But in the real, meaning of the term networking, which is also outside of your organizations, I started doing it, after 20.
Awesome. So that's a very interesting perspective that when you were actually, during your core part of your corporate journey, when you were still kind of working with people, influencing them, when you were helping them, you did not think that as an active networking, but then there was something that changed, you know,
Right.
changed your perspective towards networking. And I'm so much, I'm so much in agreement with you what these social platforms as well as these conferences can make a change in terms of our circle. Absolutely. So a lot of times, when we talk about networking, um, especially when we're talking about working women, they connect it to, career growth. Whereas networking is much, much more than career growth. Career growth is just one dimension of that. How do you see that evolve for you? Has it been more about career, or you see that as beyond that?
As I said, networking is not about what you can get out of it.
Right.
Networking is about what you can provide to the network. So
Mm-hmm.
in all my talks, that is what I say. When people say it's so difficult, it's so hard. I said, what's so hard about it? If you can help out somebody, what is so hard about it? Other than the fact that you have to spend a few hours, right? And other than the fact you have to find who you can help. So these are the only two, hassles that you will have. So
Right.
for me, while I said that I started networking after 2016, even at that point in time, I didn't call it networking. I did that because I realized I need to have a more diverse perspective to my life and to my professional career and to everything around me. Now I know that, that kind of built a great network for me, and that is what is networking. So in terms of, I never wanted anything out of that network. As I said, I went in because I wanted to help the women on a career break. That's how I started. That was a revelation for me in the conference, that these women struggle to, get jobs. Doesn't matter what kind of experiences and, challenges that they have actually delivered in previous organizations, they struggle to restart their careers. So I said, let me do whatever I can. And in the process, I connected with people that I didn't know. It could be online, it could be offline, only with the intention that if there is something that I could help at that point in time, the women on a career break through whatever association that I can build. It could be I got get to know, say a startup founder, and I can then talk to him or her and say, hey, will you, hire some women on a career break?
Mm.
So it was never for me. It was for the cause that I was trying to, support or help out. And eventually, it just kind of created such a large connection that it started coming back in many ways. So if you were to ask me how did it help, my role at Jobs for Her Foundation happened that I was I came across Jobs for Her as one of the platforms that helps women on a career break. I said, let me do something there, and I became a mentor on that platform. I volunteered, for some of the things that were running with. And when I left my corporate job in 2017, I was asked by the founder of Jobs for Her whether I'll come and head that newly forming not-for-profit foundation. I think that is, that is not what I was looking for when I said I will go and mentor the women. So this is how I, tell people. It's like the Bhagavad Gita. You karma karo, phal ki chinta mat karo. It will come back. It will come back at some point in time. And if it doesn't, but if you've done it truly with the intention of building genuine relationships and you help the other person out, I think after a while you can then go and seek for help also. There's no harm. But it has to be through that process of nurturing the relationship, growing your network, giving it your value, and then seeing how it kind of helps you back. But it has really helped me in my career also. For example, my role with National Education Society of Karnataka, that
Mm-hmm.
also happened because of that. So last year when I actually moved out of Jobs for a Foundation, I also wanted to do something in the student space. And the National College, I'm an alumni of National College here in Bangalore, and they had started a few new courses, very interesting ones, one in data science, one in IoT, and one in biomedical electronics. So I went up and how did I get to know that they started these courses? There was a WhatsApp that I got through some connect of mine. And at the end of that WhatsApp message was the name of the person who was instrumental behind launching these courses. So
Mm-hmm.
I found this person on LinkedIn. I connected with him and I said, I want to speak to you. He invited me to the college and I said, I would like to help. So if you need anything in terms of, I have a large network, if you think you need faculty, you need anything, reach out to me. I'm willing to help. And he went and spoke to the management and said that this lady can help us not only for these three courses, but for the entire institution. And they created this whole firm. Eventually, it does help you in your career, but that's not the go-to, position when you start networking or even to play this way.
Right. I think those are like some of the gems that you talked about, right? Like networking is not about only taking, but I think when you start with a notion of with not expecting too much, but rather to see opportunities where you can give back. I think
Right.
that's a wonderful thing. And I think, yeah, especially after you have gathered certain expertise, after you've been in the corporate world for some time, I think we all should look for these kind of opportunities, right? And one very interesting anecdote that you talked about, where you kind of, just got a message and you kind of reached out to that person. While your thought process when you started that was very different, it kind of one thing led to the other, and you were kind of today engaged with them full time. And this is exactly one thing which I constantly hear, not only for the women I mentor or from the bigger ecosystem, is that is networking for everyone. How,
Mm.
like, somebody will say, oh, I'm a very shy person. Somebody will say, oh my God, how do I overcome my own inhibitions to going and approach somebody in the conference? So are there like some nuggets, or how to, I mean, for somebody, it's just like really, really getting out of their comfort zone. So have had such kind of things, and what would you have to say about that?
Yeah, definitely. So the first thing is you have to leave the comfort zone. That's the first thing. Even before that, I think to feel comfortable in terms of networking, I suggest that become a connector of people. What is a network? At the end of the day, it's just connecting, people, 5, 10, 100 with 100, whatever it is. And so that is very easy. I know so many people and I can connect them to Maldi. Of course, you could realize that there is something common between Malti and this other person that I know, and you could connect using that particular commonality to say, I think there are some synergies, why don't you talk? But I have had a brilliant, um, connect example where this person sent me an email and connected me to another two people and said that I just met these three wonderful ladies and I felt like connecting the three of you. I know that when the three of you get together, you will build some magic. When that magic happens, just call me to watch it. I have never seen an introduction of this kind and a connection of this kind, because you usually wait for somebody to ask you, can you connect me to a Malti? Or, if I might think, okay, if there is some synergy, I will connect. But this was just without any purpose. And it was so beautiful. So that is very easy to do. I know 10 people, I can connect 10 people to you. That is the beginning of networking. Once you start doing that, you feel a little more confident, a little more better in terms of leaving your comfort zone and going and talking to somebody somewhere. Of course, in today's COVID era, I can't say go and attend a conference, but there are plenty of online conferences which you can attend and you can network there also, and we'll talk about it later. But leave the comfort zone. Don't think about what will it give me if I'm attending the conference, which was for women on a career break. If I had thought, what will it give me, I would never have shown up there. And see how my life changed, post.
True.
So I also suggest try to be part of as many diverse events, meetup groups, networks as possible, because that is where you get more leeway to kind of provide value. Also, in terms of getting the diversity of thought. So for me, if you ask me, of course, technology banking was, by default. I go to, lit clubs, and I started going to lit clubs because my daughter, was into writing, and that has eventually taken me into the path of writing. If
Mm-hmm.
there is something around, of course, DNI by default, I will be there. If there is something around startup and entrepreneurship, I will be there. While I'm not an entrepreneur, but I don't mind going and listening and what kind of ideas come. Of course, today I'm going to be attending anything which comes around the education field because I'm working there. So my point is that don't think about is it relevant to me. everything is relevant to everybody, especially in today's world. You need to know everything about everything. And how do you get to know? You can't be sitting and reading books, but just attending a session, that is being delivered for anything, you at least at the top level, you will get to know certain things. You will get to know certain people. And then if you like it, you can go further deep into that. So that's the second thing. It is difficult to leave the comfort zone and start attending the conferences, meetups, or meeting people and starting to talk to them who you have never before seen in life. But get over it. What's the worst that can happen? The person may not talk to you, or you may not have anything to contribute to the conversation. Doesn't matter. You will learn something there, and you will contribute to another conversation, later on. So that's how you kind of start doing and getting over those fears.
Absolutely true. Absolutely true. And this kind of relates so much, right? When I started to, for example, volunteer with women in tech initiatives in our organization, in
Right.
my previous organization, I remember when I gave my name as a speaker, but like 3 days before that, I started to have butterflies. And I think
Correct.
it is just a matter of that initial hump that you need to navigate. But once I was
Right.
on the stage, I was on top of my topic. After that, it
Right.
was a smooth ride. And
And I
also,
think that bit about um, feeling jittery, feeling whether I am there, do I know enough, is more for women. We have all the what is called as the imposter syndrome, right? We feel we are not there, and we don't deserve to be there. It's by fluke and by luck, and somebody is going to find out, that I'm just faking it, and that comes to women naturally. It comes to me even now after so many years. You said about the first talk that you did, and for me, after doing so many talks, also every time there is a new one, to be like, I hope I did all right. After the talk is over, I'll still ask myself, maybe I should have done better. Maybe this could have been better. So it's there, but it doesn't matter. If you feel it, you will better yourself. You'll be better than the previous one for sure. So go for it. That's the recommendation that I have.
true, true. I think we always, as women, tend to be much more critical about ourselves than anybody else telling
So
us.
true.
So in that context, also, Nija, I think one of the things which people are constantly looking when they are networking or when they are reaching out to other people is that, so for example, they would have seen you as an expert on leadership. Somebody would say, see somebody else as a technology expert on a particular technology stack. So one of the things that people constantly look for is coaching, mentorship. Uh,
Right.
so and lot of times they kind of tend to be very reluctant to reaching out to that person, saying that okay, I don't know whether they would accept or not. So have you had such any such instance yourself experienced, or have you? What would you advise folks who are looking for mentors or coaches? How should they approach that?
Yeah. So I'll give you my not in terms of reaching out to a mentor, but an unpleasant thing that happened with me when despite the fact that I'm called a super networker, there was something that I also felt very awkward about. Now, in the initial days, the kind of conferences that I would go to would be more the corporate kind, right? So it could be technology, banking, even if it was for women on a career break, you would have mostly the corporate crowd that would come. The speakers would be, from one of those companies, and you know how to kind of manage that scene. First time that I went to, it was a launch of, I think, a women's entrepreneurship network and an
Mm-hmm.
accelerator, and I
Mm-hmm.
was asked to represent jobs for a foundation, and I went there. This was a completely new circle to me, and I had no clue about it because I'm not intending to become one. And the circle was very, very new. And people then knew each other because it's not a very large circle, right? You know the VCs and you know the angel investors, you know the startups that usually come to such a forum. So I did the usual thing. After the whole session was over, I went and tried to talk to somebody, give my business card. Nobody even looked at me. Nobody looked at me. And I came home feeling very, very depressed. Because never happened to me before. Because I knew how to navigate the rest of the, conferences. But for the first time, I felt, I'm really dejected. But anyways, didn't matter. I mean, I'm someone who accepts it and moves on. The same, platform that had done this launch of the accelerator, after a few months, had a closed door discussion. And they invited very selected people. And I got invited because I was heading the Jobs for Foundation, and it was a women's entrepreneurship thing. So they called. Since it was a closed door discussion, I also got an opportunity to speak at the table, which I did. But things changed. At the end of that session, I remember this one lady to whom I was trying to give a business card who didn't even look at me on the first event. She came to me and she gave me her card. Okay. And I came home and I saw there was a note on my LinkedIn from another person who was also very, very well recognized in that ecosystem saying, "Hi, Neeraja, it was good to meet you today at the round table." And I realized that we are already connected on LinkedIn.
Mm-hmm.
So I cashed on that. I responded to him and I said, I'm struggling with a bit of funding for the, not-for-profit, and I would like to meet you and speak about it. And he accepted. We met at, a cafe for coffee. And in fact, we spoke beyond funding. He asked me about family and books and, a lot of other things. So the comfort factor developed. And after some days, so I was doing like this, people call me for talk shows. There was a podcast that somebody had recorded and it did the rounds, it went around. And I think the person who had launched that accelerator heard that. And she called me because, we had numbers. And she said, I listened to it and I would like to invite you to become a co-founder. So that's the journey, right? Of the first one where I really struggled. But over a period of time, if you keep at it and don't say no to opportunities. Like I could have said, I will not go to this closed door conference because the first opportunity was so pathetic. People didn't want to talk to me. I don't want to go. If I didn't want to go, then you have done lost out of it. So that's one experience of mine, which I would like to share. But in terms of reaching out for mentorship, coaching, I would say be direct. You don't have to beat around the bush to say, you kind of, talk about 100 things and then say, I want to be direct. It's perfectly fine. But the only thing that I would say is you should know what you want to be mentored about. You should know where you are today, what your achievements are, where the gaps are, what challenges you have, or what aspirations you have because of which you're seeking out this particular person as a mentor or a coach. Do that homework. Majority of the times, people who approach me will not know anything about that. They just say, "Oh, I heard you want to be a mentor." Then I say, "Okay, what do you want to be mentored on?" They have no answer. So the way to kind of change that is even if the mentorship, like you and I, most of the time do it pro bono. We are not charging for a mentorship or coaching unless that there's also of course a paid coaching that I do. But generally, when people approach me and say, a couple of sessions, I just want to have a chat, I'm not going to charge you for that. But if you went to somebody who would charge you by the hour, then I'm sure you would have done all your homework and ensure that 60 minutes gets you the best out of that person. Do your homework like that, because then you will get more than 60 minutes of time from that person. That's what happens always. Especially when it is, pro bono, then I have seen people, okay, they will take some advice from me and then they will not act on it. But they will call me after 2 months and say it didn't work. Well, if you did not act on what was told to you, then you can't say it didn't work. And then I stopped taking those calls because I say you wasted my time, you wasted your time. You've not acted on anything. I'm not saying that if you act on my advice, it will work. It may not work. But then you tried something, and then in the next call, we can talk about it why it didn't work. So that's the only piece of advice that I would give. But please be direct about, wanting mentorship from somebody. Have your reasons very well articulated in terms of why you need someone like that to mentor you, and what is it that you're looking for in terms of mentorship. Very specific.
Absolutely. So much. I mean, unless you are kind of, persistent at it and you kind of take the first step, I think that itself is a big deal, as you kind of talked about. Because same,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. And Nisha, I mean, we kind of touched upon a lot of things where we probably started with a connect on the social network, or we met somebody at a conference. So it's kind of, we kind of take it forward with a mixed setup. Sometimes we meet the person, and that kind of helps us to also build that connect and all that. But now the new normal where we are going to, we all have to accept the fact that probably for the next coming few months, it is going to be all virtual. We are going to be connecting on that, right? So how, how has it? How do you think that folks who are wanting to probably participating in some conferences or reaching out to people over LinkedIn, how do they make best use of it? That would be one. And the second part is, how do they sustain it? Do you
Right.
do, do you have a point of view on that?
So I would recommend whatever you do when you do at a physical event is what you do at a virtual conference also. So attend all these webinars that we have plenty of in today's. Actually, it's much better today because you don't have the limitations of I can attend only a Bangalore one, right? You can attend anything that is happening across the globe. And a lot of these events have become free actually today, or the fees are really, really minimal. So please take the effort to go and attend as many as possible. So that's rule number one. Rule number two, what would you do when you attend the conferences? You would meet people and you would kind of try to introduce yourselves. I always say that you need to have an elevator pitch ready. Because when you're meeting someone, you probably will meet them for 5 minutes, if at all, even that much of time you get, especially if you're meeting the speakers who have come to the conference. So you cannot just go on rambling. So always go prepared with an elevator pitch. So even at this, virtual conference, ensure that if you have an opportunity to introduce yourself to somebody, you have a good 30-second, 60-second pitch available so that you can introduce yourselves. And try and find out more about that person. Because I said networking is all about what is the value that you can provide. If you keep talking about yourself, you'll never get to know what is it that the other person is looking out for. Now, there are two types of conferences that happen. One is they use all these fantastic virtual conferencing platforms where there is a networking lounge available. So you can actually go into a networking lounge where it makes you meet up somebody like Alti and I are talking. Like that, you will actually meet another person there. Again, that is time because they can't have a huge lounge. It will be like one-on-one kind of a thing. So that is why your elevator pitch is extremely useful. 30 seconds, go introduce, and then try and find out as much as possible about what the other person does with the intention of seeing if you can help that person. That is the only thought you have to keep in mind. Networking is all about that. And the minute you realize that there is something that you could help, which could be, you could connect somebody to somebody, and pass on a reference, or you feel that the person possibly, like example, a startup founder is looking for some kind of help, and you are aware of where that help can be sought from. So keep these things in mind so that after the conference you can continue that a connection. The second kind of a conference is when it's over a platform like this, which is a Zoom or something like that. Even here, some of these conferences do breakout rooms, which means even if there are 100 participants at the conference, they will have shorter, say, workshops where there will be 10, 20 participants. The mantra for networking is not to have 100 people in your list to whom you need to speak when you go to a conference. Even if you speak to 2 people, but those 2 people you ensure that you can provide value to, that is good enough. That 2 will become 4 and 20 and 200 over a period of time. So it's not going to happen overnight. That is another thing that I have to say. It takes time. But if you do it in the right way, it will happen. So the minute you get into those breakout rooms, you have opportunity to get to know people more. Otherwise, over a Zoom meeting, you may not get to know all the 100, but within the smaller breakout rooms, you can get to know people. You could, start by saying, "Can we just introduce?" and put your LinkedIn, on the chat. That's something which I always do, and it is encouraged by others also. So you can figure out who the person is outside of this conference because you'll connect on LinkedIn, and then you can tell the person, "Hey, I met you at this conference. Can we, connect over a call tomorrow just to get to know, you better, and I will tell you what I do, and we can, kind of continue this relationship." So that's one way of, networking when you have an opportunity to be in smaller groups. Worst comes to worst, and this is what I do, right? The minute I go into a webinar, even if there are 50 people, you can always, if they're using Zoom meeting and not doing a Zoom webinar, and usually it is Zoom, because today Microsoft Teams and Webinar Jam and other platforms have come, but it's usually Zoom. Even on the other platforms, I think you can find the list of participants.
Right.
And I will go, I know it's hard. Like if you say a Neeraja Ganesh, there could be 20 Neeraja Ganeshes that you will find on LinkedIn. But I will go and try and find this person on LinkedIn. So I will take a screenshot of the participant list. Of course, you don't waste your time during the conference because you want to listen to them. Chat, put your LinkedIn. If that doesn't work or people have not responded and accepted your LinkedIn invite, take screenshot of the participant list. After the conference is over, try and find that participant, in on LinkedIn. Usually you will find either because you've seen the person's face or because the conference is about a particular domain or technology or whatever industry, you will, make a connect. Even if there are 5 names, you will say, okay, maybe this was the person, right?
Right.
And sometimes names are unique. So this has been my way of trying to find people and connect online, and it has worked. I will tell you, it has worked. In the last 4 months, it has worked very well for me. And always, when you connect on LinkedIn, please put one nice line over there saying that I met you at this conference, or I something about that person's profile was interesting, or something the person wrote somewhere or spoke somewhere, and you would like to remain connected with that person. Don't say I want to take mentorship from you and hence I'm connecting. I want to look for a job and I want your help. Those are really turn-offs and put-offs, and you should not be doing that. That's the way you connect. Now, nurturing, that's the second part you asked me. How do you ensure that the relationship continues? That is the nurturing part of it,
Right.
which is where the network really becomes a network. Otherwise, it's just a one time you met and then you are a forgotten story, right? You have to ensure that you continue that discussion that you started at the event forward. So what I would tell people is, at physical events, you would exchange business cards. So the first thing that you do is ensure that the person's phone number is put into your directory. You've connected with the person on LinkedIn, and you sent off an email saying it was great meeting you today. If you've already discussed what is it that the person is looking for help, and you felt that you could help, either in the first email or the first WhatsApp, or after a week, pass that information. So, there is a second opportunity for the person to remember you, that, okay, this person met me and promised help and it is coming. And then continue. Now, you can't always be helping, but it is very simple. And you may say that once you have 10,000 people on your LinkedIn, it becomes hard. I'm not asking you to put a timetable, right? But when it is smaller, you can do it more frequently. Every 2 weeks, I must connect with Malti. I know that she, loves to be in the product forums. She loves the startup, world. So I might read something interesting, and I will pass it on. It's as simple as that. Malti will continue to remember me. She will know that I know what she wants, and I'm trying to be of help. And tomorrow, after a few, say after a few weeks, you can then also ask Malti for some help. It's perfectly fine, but that's how you nurture the connection. And once it's become large, you can't do it every fortnight, every month. It's okay. But for me, because I do it so genuinely, I will remember every person and what the person was looking out for at that point in time. And even after 6 months, I will probably send something to them. It might have been 6 months I didn't speak to the person, but after 6 months, I found something which I felt, oh, I met Malti 6 months ago and she will probably consume this information and will be of help. I will pass it. And even that gesture is appreciated. So that's the way, you nurture. If nothing, happy birthday, happy anniversary, and all is definitely available. Today we go beyond LinkedIn also. Facebook, of course, is also another social platform that people connect on today. But even LinkedIn provides us opportunities to which people on job or promotion or whatever take that opportunity and remain in touch. And that's the way you nurture the connection.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I think a very, very valid point, right? And probably I want to just add on to that a little bit, Neeraja. Another thing that I do is that when there are specific forums where I'm looking to primarily, connect with people who are, let's say, expert on a blockchain or expert in product management space, some of the forum also publishes the list of the people who are going to attend. So sometimes also
Yes,
what
yes,
helps is that go to their
yes.
website, go through the,
Right.
people, if they have mentioned their designation, their profile details and all that. And sometimes going to attend such conferences, whether virtually or physically, making a note of that and probably sending them a note on LinkedIn, or figuring out they are joining some common sessions or not, also has been helpful.
Yeah, yeah. And today I think, WhatsApp groups are also created. If
Yes.
there is a
Yes.
like this workshop that you're larger part of the conference, but a smaller workshop that you've chosen to attend, they create a WhatsApp group so that you can interact, or information about, when, and, reminders can be sent. So you immediately have their names and numbers and, everything else. So
True.
take the step. If you kind of say, hey, I'm available here on the LinkedIn, then, the rest will also. But that LinkedIn has become a very common thing today. So for those of you not on LinkedIn, or you kind of see, the other thing I say is LinkedIn is not the resume portal. While that is how it started, but it is a more portal where you actually display your personal brand. And that's a different topic, for another session you
Yeah.
may want to look at. So remain active on LinkedIn. Because that will also give you opportunities, job opportunities or other kinds of opportunities, at a different point in time. So you can't just be quietly sitting on LinkedIn and connecting with people and not do. You have to show your thought leadership. Must share your original content or something that you've read and put out your thoughts around it. So that way, also somebody who met you at a conference and you said something and you now share something regularly, people will, again, kind of have that visual impact and will remain in touch. So that's the way to
Absolutely.
kind of nurture the connection.
Absolutely.
And you're
Absolutely.
very right about, getting to know the attendee list, doing some research about the organizers, about the speakers. And I also say, have a question ready for the speakers, which means you have to do some research prior. And while you can, spontaneously ask questions, but if such an opportunity doesn't come, you can, talk about the session that the person did last time, refer to that and ask a question. The speaker will remember you much better than the rest of the attendees because he or she is feeling flattered that you've done this research and you heard
Exactly.
his or her other talks and things like that.
You know about the person.
Yes, exactly. So that always works.
Right, right, right. And probably, Neeraja, I think I just want to kind of think about also taking this to let's say, a office network, right? I mean, we
Yes.
talked a lot about our social network. How do we reach out to people in our immediate sphere of influence? A lot of times it also happens where, I have people telling me that, oh, beyond my immediate team and probably with the people in other teams with whom I work, I hardly know anybody, right? So,
Right.
so while a lot of things that we talked about in terms of finding opportunities, in terms of giving value, which could be through some of the organizational initiatives and all that, definitely are the way to go ahead. Would there be anything specific that you kind of guide to your mentees or to your teams when you were in Capgemini or something like that, where you kind of actively pursued or you recommended to your mentees in terms of building their network within the organization itself?
Yeah. Within the organization is also very important. Now, we've been talking about outside the organization, that's for sure, but within the organization is also very important. A slight change that you make there is that certain networks you will make within the organization, which is very selfish.
Yeah.
While the external networking I speak about is not go with the intention of what can they give and hence I will talk, but within the organization, a little bit of that is selfish to say what I can get from that person. And I'll tell you some of the people, right? Uh, Executive assistants, ensure that you have built a good rapport with them because they are the one who will give you, like, the receptionist at the doctor's
It's like bang on.
clinic. Yeah, even if you didn't have an appointment, if you knew the receptionist, she will sneak you in. Exactly, and I'm saying she was usually receptionists are women, but yeah, he will sneak you in. But EAs, you need to have because you never know when you need that 5 minutes time from the MD or the head of the business unit. So you must. That's a very selfish kind of network. You have to know who are the key people in your organization who can put a good word for you and be connected with them. So that's the very selfish part. So identify such people and how do you kind of network with them. You find out what is their coffee time and ensure that it is a pantry. Of course, today everything is virtual, but one day we will come back to the real world. I'm sure. I'm a optimist in that. So find out which pantry they like to go to and what is the coffee time. All of us have that, right? The rhythm. At 11 o'clock, I will go pick up a chai from this place. And I know that there'll be other four people who will come at the same time and I'll have my gupshup at that time. So you can reach out and build a sort of a network with those people. How does it help? For example, if there was a town hall that is happening in your company every month that happens, 1.5 hour town hall, and there is one 10-minute slot given to somebody to come and present something who's not necessarily the who's who in the BU, right? Be anybody, any junior person also doesn't matter. But if there is something interesting that the person has done, read, contributed to, that person gets the opportunity to kind of speak at the town hall. And you want that slot. So how do you do that? If the business unit had never, decides the town hall agenda, let me tell you that he or
True.
she will always give that job to, somebody else. And you need to ensure that you're well networked with that somebody else. And you just give and take. hey, so who's getting that slot this time? Who's speaking? What is the topic? Very casually, and the person will say, yeah, there are 3 people, and I have to decide. And you say, oh, really? There are already 3. I was thinking that maybe I can present something, and you put that across. For all you say, yeah, this is sounding much better. Let me take you in, right? So this is the selfish thing. Appraisals, and all of this for this we need very selfish networks. Beyond which is, of course, how do you kind of get to know more about the organization, which means you have to know about what the other teams are doing, what the other business units are doing, what their challenges are. You could possibly help them, for which you kind of start inviting them to maybe your meetings to say that this is very interesting that your team did. Why don't you share it with mine? So that's the way you kind of cross pollinate. And I did this when I was at ANZ, I was handed a team which was brilliant at execution, right? They were running a retail banking. We were a retail banking delivery team. We were brilliant at execution. 30 odd people who've been in the team forever. So there is only brilliance that you will get from them because they've not moved out. They're only getting better year after year. Talent which was given to me was this. Nobody knows about them. They are like in their own sweet spot. They do their work quietly and they're happy. They don't want to step out and do anything else. And nobody wants to go in there because I think they don't allow that also because they're kind of so possessive about this stuff. The talent it was given to me by the management was, you're going to break this. You're going to get some people out. You're going to get some fresh blood in. Right. And when I went in and I spoke to those people, they said, it's not that we don't want others to come in. We feel that, we are sidelined. Nobody wants to talk to us. And nobody, they don't even want to understand the great work that we do. So the first thing that I did was, I started the tradition of potluck lunch. So potluck lunch of the team so that we all bring some good food. And I said, we will invite one person from another business unit to come to this potluck. And it became a hit. People started wondering, how do we get that invite to that? Because people started understanding what we do. It was a more fun kind of an event and then get to know more and all of that. People wanted to attend the potluck lunch. So then I had to run competitions and say, okay, who wins the competition comes and all of that. So find out interesting ways of, trying to go to some other teams or bring people from other teams, but it is important. Don't become invisible. That is my, thing to you. You have to be extremely visible in the organization for the right reasons and ensure that you are there, talking, speaking, helping out, coordinating something or the other beyond the work that you do.
Absolutely, absolutely. I mean, I think there is always we just need to find what is the best way to crack it. And I think nobody wants to be siloed. Everybody, I mean, we are like social animals, right? We definitely want to be connected. I think it is just kind of finding that sweet spot where you are not hitting on anybody's ego, still, making them want to be part of that network. So yeah, so amazing. Thank you for sharing that anecdote. That has been great. Okay, so I think it has been a wonderful conversation. We kind of touched upon a lot of things. So probably, Neeraja, I would just want to ask you if there are some small nuggets, things on your checklist that you would ask some of the folks who are probably new into the world of networking, whether it is within their organization or, into the social network world. Maybe let's say the top 3 things that you have in your mind. I know we've kind of touched upon a lot of different things, but if you have to kind of just sum it up in top 3 things, what would that be?
So yeah, the first thing I would say is get the definition right. Networking is about you providing value, you being of some help to the other person. Otherwise, you will just remain part, you'll be one among 100. That doesn't help you, it doesn't help others. People will not reach out to you for anything, neither can you contribute in any way. So that value add that you provide, that SME expertise that you have, or whatever it is, ensure that your going in position is that. So networking is about providing value to the others. The second one I will say is nurture the relationship that you have built. Because most of us probably do the first part, right? Connect with people, business cards exchanged, and phone numbers done, LinkedIn done. Beyond that, nothing. So ensure that you nurture that connection. Doesn't matter if it is once in 3 months also, but please ensure you reach out with something relevant to the other person and they will remember and that relationship will grow. And the third thing I will say is do it right now. I always say, you cannot dig a well when you're thirsty. So it has to be there. So it will help you when you are in need, but for that you have to be continuously doing it. So the time is now. Start now if you've not already started, and over a period of time, it will definitely, give you the benefits, both tangibly in terms of maybe it could be a job, an opportunity, money, whatever, but intangibles in terms of the satisfaction you derive of having helped people and seeing, where they have, gone in their lives. That's going to be.
Fantastic. That is amazing. Thank you, Neeraja, because I just can't agree more. The kind of direct and indirect influences, just meeting different kind of people, whether it is virtually or in person, it can have to shape you in different parts of your life is just amazing. So I think, yeah, it is, yeah, just don't wait, get started. Of course, it requires some amount of time to be invested, but it is all worth it.
Exactly, that's right. It is. And I think Malti and you just sitting over here and saying that is proof enough that it is worth
Yeah, one should definitely go for it. And I think technology is just making it much more easier. Without getting out of your home, you can meet, like, just open your laptop and you are meeting like hundreds and thousands of people. So it's
That's
just
true.
amazing. So one should definitely do it. It is important. All right.
Perfect.
Thank you so
Thank
much,
you.
Neeraja. It was wonderful
Thanks.
having you here on the next We Connect series.
I loved it. Thank you so much.
Thank you.